Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Sittin In session as part of William Paterson University's Summer Jazz Room at Home. And we are at home. I'm at home, and my guest, Alexis Cole, is also at her home. And you, as a listening audience, are at your home. We will be broadcasting after this interview. We will be airing Alexis's set, which was pre-recorded in the Shea Center for Performing Arts at William Paterson University. But for now, we're lucky to have someone who's really made a mark for herself as a singer, as a jazz singer. She also plays keyboard, and she's been at William Paterson a few times as a performer, but she's also an alumnus of our jazz studies program. And we'll talk a little more about her background and what sort of things she's done. But I'd like to give a warm welcome to Alexis Cole. Thanks for being with us today, Alexis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So let's start with maybe the work backwards from the material that the audience is going to hear tonight. The band, it's a small group, but how often before the COVID crisis, how often did you work with a group like this and this material? Who can you tell us a little bit about that, and also about the way that this material sort of came together?
Sure. Well, for many years, I played with the big band up at West Point, and I was the lead singer there. And some of this material was written by another William Paterson alumnus, arranged by Scott Archangel, and for the big band. And then he reduced it down to a three-horn arrangements so that we could play them with small groups. And actually, that was intended first to be for the West Point band to go out with small groups, because they actually, during my tenure, got rid of the big band. And so we were hoping we would be able to actually tour more because of being a smaller group, but that didn't quite materialize, unfortunately. However, we have this great book of three-horn arrangements from that time. And I've played these arrangements too on tour with the SUNY Purchase, which is where I teach. We've gone on recruiting tours and brought groups of students. And the first recruiting tour, we brought a sextet, and I sang some of these songs with a student group, and they were great.
Great. And what's the name of the album? If people are interested in hearing this stuff with a big band, can you tell us about the album?
That album isn't released yet.
Oh, it's not?
Yep.
Okay.
I did a crowdfunding for it, and I have everything in the can. It's not mastered, but I'm really excited for when the time is right. I haven't self-produced a project in over 10 years. So before that, I self-produced all my projects. But I really wanted to take my time and take care and make sure it gets the proper release, because I'll never be able to record an album quite like that again. These are all big band arrangements that were written expressly for me, from someone who knew me, that
Right.
That I got to perform over the course of, sometimes 6 years. So
Right.
if I ever did another big band album or an orchestra album even, I would never have the opportunity of performing the material over time. And it probably wouldn't be written by somebody that I, see every day at work. And, it's just
Right.
it was a very special project. So I'm taking my time with it, but I'm
Great.
excited to preview some of the arrangements with our trio, with the sextet.
With the sextet, yeah. When you say, you working with Scott and he's someone you've worked with and knows you, like, what can you give us some examples, like musically? What does that mean, that if someone knows you and is writing arrangements for you, how do those arrangements differ from someone who doesn't know you?
Well, I think Scott is one of the only people that's ever written arrangements for me, because I was in that band. Otherwise, I do all my own arranging.
I see.
Yeah, we had a couple of arrangements written for the band that were also had a vocal, but the arranger didn't. That was like maybe 2 or 3 of them. I don't remember who they were by, but they were, they didn't sort of capture my style or my persona or my personality, or I mean, I have a very adventuresome side, you know, of my singing that I really like to improvise. Maybe not necessarily like always on a bebop tune, but maybe something more straight or, you know, world influenced. And I think Scott really captured that. Especially, I think we're not going to be doing Joy Spring, but he has an arrangement that he wrote for me of Joy Spring. At the end, it goes into this 5/4 vamp, and it's kind of this like I studied singing in India, and I kind of bring in my Indian singing over the vamp, and it's like wow, to go from like this straight up bebop tune into this very floaty, you know, world music vibe. It was really that's for me what his writing is for me because that's kind of who I am. I'm really swinging. I hope I try to be, you know, but I also have this other sort of like it's my hippie side, you know, my world music side, you know, that comes that makes a nice mesh. So
that's and then someone who didn't know you wouldn't have any idea to do
no idea. Yeah.
You
know, he wrote a great arrangement of Across the Universe too, which is on that album.
Oh, great.
But the ones that we'll be doing you know, tonight that are on the album are Triste. I'm very excited, and that really expresses this kind of vibe that I'm talking about now. So that's I can't remember which other ones. Do you want to pause it for a second and I'll take a look?
No, it's all right.
Okay.
We don't need to. It might come to you, but
yeah. But Triste is the main one. Oh, New York State of Mind is another one that, you know, people know it as kind of a pop ballad, but he made it into a very floaty, cool thing.
Great. Yeah. Wonderful. And let's see, how long were you at West Point? Is that what is the
6.5 years.
6.5 years.
Yeah, I left in 2015, which is when I started teaching at SUNY Purchase.
Right. Did you go to West Point directly out of after school, after college, or did you take some time off?
No. Yeah, I joined the Army when I was 33. I had already gotten my master's and been working, you know, in the field for a long time. And it just, I was working actually in Japan for the years prior to my joining the Army. I was going back and forth on an entertainer visa, playing in a lounge there. It was a really beautiful place and a great experience. And I really got my piano chops together during that time. I did it for a year and a half, over 2.5 years. And I just felt like I didn't have a home. Well, I didn't have a home, so, you know, because I was just sort of renting sublets, you know, for the few months I'd be home. And when the West Point, and I was, you know, I'd reached my 30s and I was just getting tired of the gypsy life. And I had never really had my own place per se at that time. So it was really time to become part of a community and live somewhere and have friends and a life, you know? So the West Point band, a lot of people join the military to travel. Conversely, I joined the military. I mean, that's not why I joined, but one of the things that I was hoping to get was a sense of stability. Because when people join these special bands, they're actually one of the only units in the military where you join that unit and you stay in that unit in that place for the length of your career. Most other people in the military switch it up every 3 years or so.
I see.
So it was, and I'd always wanted to live in the Hudson Valley too. And I mean, the chance to sing full time with a big band was just an incredible opportunity, and to serve the country. I'm a very patriotic person. You know, I just love the Constitution, and I love what our country stands for, and I wanted to be a part of that. So,
great. So you killed a few birds with one stone there. I don't know if that's a politically correct analogy these days, but we try not to kill birds.
I'm against guns.
Right.
Yeah, right. I did have to learn to shoot in the Army, but I'm very, you know, pro gun reform.
Right.
But I live right near a shooting range, so that's kind of, and actually I used to go camping at West Point, and they'd be doing their summertime tactical exercises. So I guess I'm kind of used to being in the country with guns.
Yeah, I grew up in Rockland County, not too far from West Point, and we used to go through Harriman State Park and hear these huge booms, and it's like, what was that? And then we'd realize that's the artillery range at West Point.
Right.
That big tract of land, yeah, right. So what about in terms of your piano playing? I imagine that's a real boon. That's a real aid for you to be able to really get around the keyboard as a singer and to accompany yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, that can help.
And I feel like it's such a full expression of my musical self. I mean, most of the time at the keyboard, I'm playing my own arrangements. And a lot of times those have evolved too with my bandmates. We're going to have David Fink with us on the bandstand tonight. And I've been playing with him for about 7 years. or 8 years
Right.
now. And, you know, his style influences me, and also the drummer Kenny Hassler. We're together often. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like that, you know, unit, we just got back from a tour right before COVID. It was very
Right.
lucky. So, yeah, you know, playing piano with my trio is sort of my new normal, and it's something I really love. I'm not going to win any awards for my piano playing, but you know what? It's a full expression of my musical self, and that's kind of what I'm going for. And you know, nobody's paying me $1 million to be a jazz singer, so I figure I should do what is musically satisfying for me, and that's where it's at for me, for sure.
It's a great philosophy to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What sort of things other than that, you still talked about that tour, other things you were doing before the COVID crisis?
Yeah, well, I mean, that tour was actually, um, you know, kind of the ultimate for me. I'll tell you about the tour in a second, but every time that I've thought back to, you know, that I feel a little bit sorry that I'm not able to be out performing right now, I just think like, wow, but we got that tour in. And so that tour was, first I flew out solo to Vancouver and played 4 nights with Corey Weeds, the great saxophone player. And each one of those concerts was great. He put together a great rhythm section for us. And some of them were just duo. And I'd never played with a horn player, a concert duo with me as the only member of the rhythm section. So it was really challenging and fun. And his sound is terrific. I love playing with him. And then I went skiing for 2 nights, skiing for 2 days at Whistler, which I'd always wanted to ski at Whistler. So it was
Right.
like, I'm going to be right there. I couldn't believe it. So I rented a car and drove up to Whistler, had a great time. We had perfect conditions. And
Yeah.
then I flew to Tokyo and played at the club that I've wanted to play at my whole life, which is the Cotton Club. When I used to live in Japan, I would go to the Cotton Club sometimes on my nights off and be like, oh, how do you get to play here? I really want to play here. And for
Right.
years after that, so I started touring in Japan, or going to Japan for those lounge gigs in 2007. So pretty much from 2007 until 2020, I harbored a longing in my heart to play at the Cotton Club. And finally, Valentine's Day weekend 2020, my dream came true, and I got to bring my trio from New York. They flew everybody, and we played 3 nights, six shows, all sold out in
Right.
Tokyo. So it was really exceptional, so much fun. I had a great time, and then everything ended. Oh, I did a short tour of Florida too. That was really great.
Hmm.
And oh, where did I play? Oh, I did the St. Petersburg Jazz Festival with a big band with the Helios Jazz Orchestra. That was super fun, and I got to visit my parents. And also, I took advantage of this amazing thing that the Betsy Hotel in South Beach has, which is this writer's room. The owner of the hotel, her father was a poet, and they reserve this room, which is just for artists, and you can apply for a residency there anywhere from 2 nights to a week to write take a sabbatical. I think it was Elio
Wow.
Alves that told me about this, but I applied and I got it, and so I was able to hook it in with the St. Petersburg Jazz Festival gig. And
Oh, that's a wonderful thing to know about. Did
yeah,
you say that's the Betsy Hotel?
the Betsy Hotel, yeah. And
Wow.
they actually they because they have a lounge there in the hotel, they hired me for one of the nights to play piano, so I got to play with Chuck Bergeron.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and he and I really connected, and he's going to be bringing me down to play with a big band in Florida at the Broward Center for Performing Arts, which is actually right where I grew up. So I'll get to
Wow.
play at my hometown PAC with a big band if that happens. It's November
Right.
11th, I think, but we'll
Keep our
see.
fingers crossed. Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was a great tour. So I had a whole, and you know, and I went to the Jazz Education Network conference this year. It was
Right.
spectacular, and so it's really I got a lot in before we had to stop
That's
and
great.
be relaxed, and
Right.
you know, just try and figure out all how we're going to make a living. And
Right.
it's been a great time for me. Actually, I started a website, jazzvoice.com. And first I was just teaching online a little bit, and I did a concert online, and then I made some videos, teaching videos. And somehow, you know, all this time to just be creative, it kind of mixed around in my head with the the luxury of boredom, which we rarely get in our business. And I came up with this idea, which turned out to be very popular and successful idea, to offer have like a kind of a one-stop shop for private lessons with very prominent teachers and performers. And then we also expanded to offering master classes and now skills building workshops and professional development sessions. So people can
Wow.
come on
That's
and just
terrific.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And we just had our fourth master class yesterday. It was attended by almost 70 people. It was Karen Allison gave a great class. And before that, we had Cyril LeMay, who's an alumnus of SUNY Purchase, where I teach.
Right.
And we also had Tony DeSayer. So Jane Monheit is coming up, and Catherine Russell, and who else? Vanessa Rubin.
That's wonderful.
Tierney
Yeah.
Sutton, amazing people, because everybody's home right now. And also everybody's learned to teach online. So it was a great,
Right.
it was just the right thing at the right time, hopefully. And
Yeah.
people really seem to be enjoying it, being online, seeing each other, learning together. A lot of people have mentioned that they hadn't been feeling inspired to practice or to play, and that being in the master classes has really given them a lot of inspiration. So yeah,
Right.
I hope the listeners tonight will check it out at jazzvoice.com. And wasn't it amazing that nobody had jazzvoice.com?
Yes,
Like,
right. You
how is
grabbed
that possible?
Right, right.
Now I have it. So
Right.
yeah, so I've been
Great.
learning, I try to learn something new every day.
Uh-huh.
And that's, become endlessly possible now that I'm learning, all the gamut of things that come with running a business and the web design. I thought I was going to have to hire a web designer. I was able to build it all myself, which is
Great.
amazing. And I love doing kind of graphic design. So it's really been just a very creative and pleasurable time for me. And I'm not, I've been able to work with that and some home recording and some teaching to not have to worry about,
Right.
where I didn't have to file for unemployment or anything. I'm very, very fortunate.
Great.
So yeah, so I feel
Great. That's, I think the artists, of course, traditionally, many artists go to retreats to get away from the hustle and bustle and family obligations and other things. You apply for grants and you go to some McDowell colony or something like that.
Right.
And now we've had this sort of retreats imposed upon us. Not that some, of course, are not able to get away from their family. It's not a retreat necessarily, but then there's the silver lining behind this is in terms of the uses of online and technology and have been quite interesting to see how people have been connecting and reaching each other in this way and sharing information, sharing knowledge, and sharing music as well.
I was so surprised, Tim, when we had to switch to online teaching at the university, and I really was not looking forward to it, but it turned out to far surpass my expectations of it. It really, the students that were doing well in the studio, they continued to excel and really work hard and learn things. And it was really beautiful to watch that happen, even remotely. In a way, I mean, I'm even closer to them than I am in the studio, because in the studio I'm also accompanying. And so I'm only paying, 80% or 70%, depending on how hard the song is, attention to them. So in some ways it was even preferable, which is what led me to be so enthusiastic about online teaching as to want to start a website for it. So,
right.
Yeah.
And of course, the thing that's lost and that we all know, I mean, as jazz musicians, it's a music about playing together with other people and being there in the moment. And when we say in the moment, we mean in the split millisecond of the moment. And there's nothing that has more highlighted the fact that musicians in general have to be, the idea of playing together takes on a new meaning. Because together really means together, that sort of magic that happens and the communication that happens between musicians, that the web is at this point, unless you have a lot of money to invest in very, very high bandwidth or technology, it's difficult to get that sort of synchronous.
That's why I was so excited when you asked me to do this gig when we're going to be together. It's together.
There's no replacement for that. So I mean, I think our audience, keep in mind that we're talking about what we can get out of the silver lining in this crisis of the pandemic. Yet we're all, it seems, long. At least I am, and it sounds like you are too. There's a part of us that really need to be playing and working with other people. So, and that's going to come back as soon as we're able to do that. Whatever makes that that possible.
Yeah.
What have you been doing in terms of in terms of that, in terms of say preparing for? Are there things that you've been doing to necessarily not replace that interaction with other people, but sort of prepare yourself for the fact that you will be playing with other people sometime in the future? How do you, and that brings us to like, how do we practice jazz in general? How do we prepare ourselves to be spontaneous in the moment when we do get together with other musicians? What kind of things have you been doing now that it's kind of imposed, this imposed, isolation, and we kind of have to work on it with the thought that, okay, I'm going to be playing, but I have to get this together. What kind of things do you work on for that?
I've been writing some more music actually. And because I'm, I have the time and the inspiration, because I think, rushing around and being in a hurry are probably, and overcommitted, even if those are fun and good things, is probably like the biggest killer of creativity that there is. So, part of the reason that I don't write songs is just, I might have an idea for a song, but by the time I can get to the piano to write it, it's just not top of mind. So I just, I came up with an idea for a song today. I'm probably going to work on it later, about the pandemic, called "I Keep Going Back to Lowe's," which there's a song called "I Keep Going Back to Joe's," but I think I'm going to write a parody. And it's because, home improvement over this time has been, for so many people, like the one thing, it's like, oh, I'm home, I could work on my garden, I could work on my house. And I feel like everybody at Lowe's is just looking at each other like, we're making something amazing happen in this time. My house is going to be beautiful. And I live there now all the time. I'm always home.
Right.
So I think there's something there, and even if there isn't, if I write a silly song, and if it just turns out to be nothing I ever do again, I could post it on Facebook or, I know that doesn't exactly answer your question. When this first started, I was, I had just come out of the tour, in March, and I was practicing a lot of piano, and I took some lessons, and but then I got busy when I started with this website. It's been, honestly, Tim, it's been night and day website for about 2 months.
Yeah, it sucks you in. I mean, that's the way the digital technology is.
But it's great. I mean, I don't think I could never have started this if I didn't have night and day time. I mean, literally, I stay up a lot of nights until 4, and get up again like 5 or 6 hours later to just hit it again, because I'm learning everything from scratch. So I just have to be super patient with myself. And if something takes all day, it just takes all day, and it'll get done eventually. And I'll figure it out, whatever it is. And I'll make 5 calls to the help, service people, like whatever it takes. I just have the time to make it happen. Yeah. And again, just like with creativity, I feel like having the time and space to not be in a hurry, to learn a new program, to learn, anything I have to learn. It's all about having the time and the patience to deal with things going wrong, with failure. That's something I've been hearing a lot about these last few years, is like giving yourself the space to fail. And I feel like during this pandemic, because I've been trying so many new things, including plumbing a washing machine and, chopping wood. And it's just, you learn, and all the different things on the computer, all the programs that we've had to use for teaching, and the hardware that I'm using to make the whole thing happen. And it's just giving, having the time to fail and being okay with when things go wrong. And that's, I think, as improvisational musicians, that's something that we're sort of predisposed to be okay with, because when you improvise, everything isn't going to go right all the time. And you just recover. You just spend your whole life making mistakes and recovering from them. And that's what you end up with.
Well, it makes me think about absolutely. I mean, I think what you're saying, in my family, we used to say a loaf of bread is the mother of a sewing machine. In other words, necessity is the mother of invention. That was kind of a silly thing we used to say in my family, but in this case, it's a very old maxim, but it's so true in this case that we're pivoting as a society in many ways in the world. Of course, I mean, and, not to mention there are many, many downs. I mean, the catastrophic aspect of this is it's almost too much to wrap our heads around, apocalyptic in certain ways. we still don't know the outcomes. But when you think about the history of jazz too, what's interesting is how jazz was created out of sort of a cultural trauma that was imposed on the African Americans and Africans that were brought to this country over a series of centuries, and the music became a way of pivoting. In other words, what do we do with to retain our identity, to forge an identity here out of these very difficult, incredibly difficult circumstances, and to improvise that, and the jazz kind of came out. So it's no small surprise if somehow the jazz musicians are able to do this and to pivot, because that's kind of what we do on the bandstand all the time, In terms of that, I mean, like in terms of people, you're learning about the music. Are there some mentors that you've had over the years that you might want to mention? People that have really influenced you? They don't have to be singers, anyone in the music.
Yeah, well, one of them is your vocal teacher at William Patterson, Nancy Morano. I mean, she had a tremendous influence on me, and also Nan Guptill-Crane, who just retired recently. I was at her retirement ceremony, and those two teachers, both, from a personal perspective, and also Todd Kuhlman, who is a former alum. He was one of my teachers then too, and he's, he just retired this year from SUNY Purchase.
Right.
He was the director for many years and then stayed on. And I think that, triumvirate had a super influence on me, things I still remember. And I think, Nan sort of encouraged me to be myself and to be creative. Nancy encouraged me to stick, try to achieve very, not perfection, but, to be diligent and do my due diligence whenever working on a song. And Todd, so many life lessons, in the studio there during combos.
Right.
I think back on advice that he gave us then, and I've seen him, with our students at SUNY Purchase, and it was just really inspired. I can see how young impressionable people, are getting something really good from him.
Yeah, no, he's wonderful. I had him also when I was a student at William Patterson, and the way he would articulate things that normally couldn't be so clearly explained. He's almost kind of like the Leonard Bernstein of jazz, in a way that he could take metaphors and just talk about certain situations that happened on the bandstand, and get the students engaged and really interested in it. Yeah. And
Nancy's teaching on my site now, so it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to be talking more often. It's great when people, I'm putting up their page and we're going back and forth, and maybe they have some technical difficulties and we fix them together. And it's been really bonding to have her and these other many singers on the site, to get to know them. And now I have, I feel like watching these master classes, I'm always the host of them, so I'm doing a little bit more than watching. But I feel so inspired by all these singers now, and by all the amateurs and semi-professionals who are there on the site getting better. I was actually, I was listening to some music. I love this pianist from California, Josh Nelson. He has this couple of duo recordings, not albums, unfortunately, just singles with Kathleen Grace, wonderful singer I met years ago. And anyway, I was listening to one of my favorite tracks out on the patio the other day, and I started dancing. And I thought, I think I'm going to record myself dancing, because I think everybody should dance. I'm not a professional dancer, but I love to dance. I am a professional singer, but I want the people on my website to know that I wholly endorse amateurism. It's like we should all be singing. We should all be dancing. We should all be making music. It shouldn't be relegated to professionals. And there was a time in our culture when it wasn't, and everybody played and sang and danced and did, art at home and with their community. And somehow with, as, modernity evolved, it became, even playing. I mean, they're professional sports players, and playing used to be something that we just did. And so did making art. So what I love most about the site maybe is just the embrace of singing as you know, just part of people's lives, not relegated to the professionals, and that everybody wants to get better so they can enjoy the experience more, which I appreciate. Just like you'd want to, you know, get better at, you know, I play some guitar for enjoyment, you know, and I just love practicing and I love getting to play with people. It's just we should all be enjoying creating art together
Right.
or alone.
Wonderful. Well, wonderful little bit of philosophy, musical, artistic philosophy from Alexis Cole. Your website is jazzvoice.com.
Yeah, and I have two other online concerts coming up in August. Just announced.
Great.
Yeah, August 6th, I'm going to be the Jazz Forum online is hosting me, and then August 29th, I'm doing my own concert, and tickets will be sold there for my website at alexiscole.com. I did one in May before the website got kicked off. I think it was May 3rd, and it was really so much fun. We had a lot of special guests on, and it was like a variety. I'm calling it kind of a variety show because that's what it was. But I'm so lucky that I can play and sing, so I can do most of the heavy lifting myself. But actually, you know, with things getting a little bit quieter with the virus, I might have a special guest or two. There's a lot of musicians that live in my community here.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with us, and to the audience, please stay tuned and hear Alexis Cole and Friends coming right up with William Patterson, Jazz Room at Home. Stay tuned to the remainder of the week. Thursday night is Akiko Tsuruga Quintet, and then Friday night is Steve Turre and Friends, and those are at 7:30 with the Sittin In interview, as we could call it Sittin In at Home interview that you've just heard at 7 o'clock. So I'm Tim Newman, I'm the producer. Thanks for joining us. Please stay tuned for a great set of jazz coming right up with Alexis and Friends. Thank you, Alexis.
Thank you. Great to see you. Bye, everyone. See you soon.
Bye-bye.